Hello friends, today I came with a very interesting and terrifying video. If you want to hear the story of extraterrestrial beings from me, stay with me until the end of the video. In the late 1990s, the absolute silence of a small and remote Calvinist in Russia was shattered by an event that made it world famous. This happened, and the discovery of an amazing and inexplicable creature that challenged modern science and sparked a wave of it has followed speculation and mystery to this day. This strange creature, which later took the name Alyoshenka, became a symbol of a story in which terror was mixed with the unknown. Our story begins with a 74-year-old woman named Tamara Prozina, who was known among the villagers for her strange behavior and history of mental problems. One night, Tamara went to the forest from her small and humble house to draw water from the well, something he had done over and over again over the years. But that night was different. As Tamara approached the well, she heard a sound like the faint cry of a baby. After a short search, he found the source of the sound in the grass, but the owner of the sound was no ordinary baby. Among the bushes, a strange and unknown, very small creature with gray skin caught his attention. Despite its strange appearance, Tamara took this creature home to take care of it. Probably because of her mental problems, Tamara saw the strange creature as a normal baby abandoned in the forest. He chose a name for this strange creature and called it Alyoshenka, meaning Little Alexei. It seems that he chose this name in memory of his son Alexei, who was in prison for theft and did not know about all these events that were happening. Alexei's wife, who was also named Tamara, was the first person to recognize the humanoid creature sight. The old woman called her daughter-in-law to inform her that she had found a baby in the forest, but when her daughter-in-law came to see her, she was shocked to see a creature that did not resemble a human. This creature produced strange sounds similar to a squeak. Its mouth was like a small tube. It had a narrow tongue and two teeth in it. Despite looking like a baby, this creature had distinctive features: a brown head and a gray body without eyelids and genitals. His onion-shaped head and eyes glowed in the dark. His fingers were unnaturally long and elongated. Despite her fear and worry, Tamara's daughter-in-law kept silent and did not share this issue with anyone due to her illness and emotional attachment to that creature. Days passed, and Tamara fed Ilyushenka with milk and sweets. The neighbors, who were watching her from behind the window, noticed that the old woman was taking care of a baby-like creature. In addition, the neighbors saw her walking in the streets every night. He would wrap something in a blanket and talk to it, and he kept telling the people around him that he was holding his child Alyoshenka, but he never showed the contents of the blanket to anyone. Most of the villagers thought that Tamara's mental condition had worsened and she had completely lost her mind and wrapped a doll in a blanket instead of her son and talked to it. Finally, one day, Tamara rushed to the door of her neighbors and asked for medicine for her sick baby. As expected, the residents of the village contacted the hospital with the idea that Tamara's condition was getting worse, and they transferred her to a psychiatric clinic. After medical examinations, it was found that Tamara suffers from several mental disorders, including schizophrenia. For this reason, she is under compulsory medical care. Took his admission to the hospital can be considered a turning point in the incident of Ilyushenka. Tamara kept crying and begging the clinic staff to return her to her child, because otherwise she would starve to death. However, the clinic staff, because of Tamara's 74-year-old age and her history of mental illnesses, they did not believe his words about the baby and considered them to be his mental illusions. Finally, while Tamara was hospitalized in a mental hospital, Alyoshenka died of starvation, and the body of this strange creature was discovered by the bride and her relatives. They finally contacted the police and authorities and were picked up by a local inspector named Vladimir Bandalin. Bendelin wrapped the body in a blanket and moved it to a small morgue and placed it inside a refrigerator to be handed over to scientists for further analysis. However, there are conflicting reports about the result of the scientific analysis of the body, while a local autopsy expert believed that the creature was not human at all. A gynecologist and obstetrician claimed that this body was a premature baby with severe congenital abnormalities. However, the publication of this story in the Russian press drew the attention of the world. In fact, the Japanese media were the first people who were strongly fascinated by this, became a story, and saw it as a great opportunity to investigate a potential extraterrestrial event. Therefore, the film crew from Japan's Asahi TV traveled to Russia to document this case, interview local people, and investigate the circumstances surrounding the discovery of Ilyushenka. As a first step, they wanted to start with Tamara Pruzina, the old woman who had originally discovered the humanoid. But unfortunately, Tamara died in an accident in 1999 while trying to escape from the mental hospital. Japanese researchers and scientists were interested in studying Alyoshenka's remains to determine its origin, whether it is an unknown extraterrestrial being, or was he a human with severe genetic abnormalities. They even offered $200,000 to the Russian government to buy the search, which of course was rejected. Bendelin then handed over the body to Boris Zolotov, a famous scientist of the day, so that he might be able to obtain information about the true nature of this creature. But after some time, it became clear that the body was missing. Boris Zolotov claimed with a strange story that the body was kidnapped by unknown people while being transported by a scientist to the laboratory after seeing a UFO on the road. Friends, if you like the story so far, like it. Let's continue the video. Zolotov was a cautious and skeptical person. In general, he gave few details and refused further interviews. There are many rumors that the dish was pressured by the FSB to tell this fake story. He was involved with the Russian Federal Security Service in stealing the body. There are speculations that this body was examined by secret military or scientific centers in Russia in order to investigate its origin and possible technological or biological developments. But in general, there were no traces of evidence related to Ilyushenka, but Vladimir Bandelin, who was dissatisfied with the secrecy and lack of distribution of the authorities in this regard, remembered the blanket that was wrapped around him when Tamara discovered that strange creature in the forest. With the cooperation of a newspaper journalist named Vadim Chernoblev, he transported the fabric to Moscow for additional tests. They hoped that this cloth might contain Alyoshenka's DNA. 2 weeks later, the Moscow laboratory published its findings. The blanket contained two completely different DNA samples, one of which definitely matched the DNA of Tamara, the woman who had discovered this creature, but the second DNA sample was completely strange. It had no resemblance to any known living creature in the world. And the issue raised many other questions. Could Alyoshenka really be an extraterrestrial being who got lost in an accident in the forest? In the years after this discovery, the village of Kalonovio and its surroundings became a center for UFO enthusiasts and researchers. People from all over the world came to this area and were fascinated by its mystery and the possibility of discovering new evidence of extraterrestrial life. In the year 2022, a research group called Cosmopasek or Space Search made a number of exploratory trips to this area, And during the conversations with the local people, they heard many strange and fascinating stories about this place. Contrary to the expectations of the researchers to find a clue of extraterrestrial beings, the villagers actually told a local legend that told about a mysterious dwarf race of humanoid beings. According to this story, these small beings lived in the caves under the forest where Alyoshenka was found. However, scientists have a different view of Alyoshenka's case. They look at this issue with skepticism and believe that her story is rooted in the harsh realities and difficult environmental conditions of living in this region. A group of researchers believe that this may be a human fetus with severe birth defects caused by the mother's prenatal exposure to atomic radiation due to the history of nuclear accidents in the Chelyabinsk region. Almost 3 decades before the famous Chernobyl disaster on September 29th, 1957, a terrible nuclear accident took place at the Maya chemical plant located near Chetem, the city where Alyoshenka was found. Due to a technical defect in the cooling system of the waste material storage tank, the temperature and pressure increased rapidly and finally led to an explosion. This terrible explosion sent a significant amount of radioactive materials into the Earth's atmosphere. This incident, which is known as the biggest nuclear disaster before Chernobyl, has shocking similarities with it. Just like Chernobyl, the Soviet authorities tried to cover up this incident, and they managed to do this for about 14 decades. The cloud of radioactivity covered an area of more than 20,000 square kilometers and put hundreds of thousands of people in the region at risk, and the delay in evacuating the area around the facility left local people exposed to high levels of radiation for a long time. The area that suffered the most damage from radiation was later known as the radioactive footprint of the East Urals and was named one of the most polluted areas on the planet in the discussion of nuclear disasters. That there are still no accurate statistics of the casualties of this disaster, but estimates show that this incident has directly killed hundreds of people due to diseases related to direct contact with radiation in the short term, as well as cancer in the following years. For this reason, the theory that Alyoshenka was also a human fetus with severe genetic defects was proposed. The damaging effects of radiation on DNA can cause biological abnormalities in the fetus exposed to it in the mother's womb. In fact, these abnormalities can manifest as physical defects, such as small size, underdeveloped limbs, and disproportionate head size, some of which match Alyoshenka's appearance perfectly. Many believe that although Tamara talked to this unknown creature and fed it, Alyoshenka was actually dead at the time of discovery. Some believe that he found his body in the village cemetery. The reports of eyewitnesses are very contradictory in the absence of definitive evidence and turn the whole story into a big mystery. However, what do you think about this unknown creature? Despite the recorded images of Alyoshenka at the time of medical examinations, should we believe that extraterrestrials have visited the Earth or that they have lived with us for centuries? Thank you very much for being with us until this point in the video. We hope that you have enjoyed watching it. To see more videos, subscribe to our channel and send it to your friends. Thank you to all of you dear ones